Hi, this tutorial is supposed to encourage you to buy and help you buy this instrument, the cajón. Now, this instrument is the perfect choice for amateur, semi-professional and professional drummers, and it has at least 3 good advantages over the African djembe. Well, first of all, it's made of wood, and so it is weather resistant. The second thing is that its sound goes much better together with other instruments, such as, for example, a guitar. And lastly, the instrument is empty inside, which means you can take your things, pack them inside the cajón, then wrap it all up in the form of a backpack, like that one, or a bag like this one, and travel around the world with only one piece of luggage, and also one you can sit on. Now, when considering to buy a cajón, please think of the following things. Here are 3 basic kinds of cajóns. On the left is the snare cajón. This is how it looks like inside. It uses snare strings. In the middle, a full-surface string cajón. It has wires or strings running along the whole front plate. On the right, a top string or corner string cajón. It only has strings in the top part of the playing surface. Now, here are the differences. Bass sound. The snare cajón has a snare bass sound, while the top string cajón doesn't. The snare cajón is also typically the loudest kind. The top string cajón tends to be quieter. In exchange, the top string cajón has a wider spectrum of sounds. So, for example, the bass and tone sound very differently, and the sounds are more precise, perfect for using fingering techniques. With a snare cajón, if you play fast rolls, the sounds blur into each other. Thus, it may be said that the snare cajón is best for street play, whereas the top string cajón works best with a good microphone. Also, the snare mechanisms goes well with heavy styles of music, like rock, while most dedicated flamenco cajóns are top string cajóns. The full-surface string cajón is the most universal choice, as it tends to share the characteristics of its 2 counterparts. Do not trust commercial presentations of specific cajón models on YouTube. Remember that sound may be edited. I will now play the 3 cajóns. Same room, same camera, microphone. Most popular mass producers in Europe are the German companies Schlagwerk and Meinl. Now, if you only have the option of buying a cajón over the internet, it's much safer to buy a mass-produced cajón, since there is a much bigger chance of all of them being quite similar to each other. On the other hand, if you do get the chance of actually visiting a shop and choosing between specific cajóns, give locally produced cajóns a chance. They may be, surprisingly, less expensive and of much better quality. Apart from that, they may be unique. A lot of cajón players are also drum set players, or just people who would like to use one of these, so brushes or various kinds of rods in their playing. Now, in order to be able to do so, you need a rough surface cajón. And this is why you should get interested. When you buy a cajón, some of them are polished and some of them are described as matte. If you have a polished one, that's the sound you get. If you take a rough one or a matte one, that's the sound you get. Consider whether you would like your cajón to have additional playing surfaces. Cajons come in many shapes and sizes. You have bongo cajons, you have yambu cajons, you have bata cajons, you have conga cajons, and you even have a whole cajon drum set. Now, if you're considering to buy a regular cajon model, even this one can have more playing surfaces. The basic option that you should look for is a cajon with edges that are slightly sticking out. This gives an additional snappy sound at the corners. This one doesn't have this additional sound. Have a look. And this one does. The snappy sound on the corner is a feature you should look for. On the other hand, many manufacturers produce multi-surfaced cajons. Unfortunately, I have tested a few, and amongst those tested, I cannot recommend any. And think about size. The typical cajon is 50 centimeters by 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. Most cajon cases and bags will suit this size. Obviously, some cajons are smaller, some may be bigger. Consider that if, for example, you buy a multi-surface cajon that is almost always a bit bigger, you will have more problems getting the right case or bag for it. And speaking of size, there is also a small variation of the cajon that's called the cajonito. Of course, it does not have the potential of a full-scale cajon, but still, it's a very cool gadget, and I can actually advise buying it, well, at least for the people who plan to travel a lot with it. And what about those flat pack cajons that you put together yourselves that I have found on the net? Well, obviously that's another option. It's quite cheap. You get the cajon packed into a flat box and you assemble it yourself. It's much cheaper, and obviously the shipping and handling costs may also be lower. Still, I should warn you, it's not always that easy to put a cajon together correctly. And the final question, do I need any additional accessories with my new cajon? Well, let's have a look at a few options. To start with, there is the base tube by Schlagwerk. Now this is an excellent and universal piece of equipment that changes the characteristic of your bass in the cajon from doom doom to poo poo poo, so gives a better attack. A fantastic feature that you should definitely buy, especially if you're working with microphones. The second thing is the sidekick, also by Schlagwerk. It's very easy to attach. You use Velcro straps provided by the manufacturer, glue them to the side of your cajon, and then just attach the sidekick. Very easy to mount and holds very firmly. The sidekick gives a clicking sound that is audible by the microphone at the back of your cajon, so it may be used both for street play and for microphone recording. next feature, also by Schlagwerk, is the heck stick. Now note, it's mounted onto the sidekick, so buying it separately is not really an option. The heck stick is said to imitate the sound of a hi-hat or a ride cymbal. This is not really true. It gives a unique sound, but it may be useful. Please note that it is not really audible by the microphone in back, so you would have to use two microphones or use the heck stick only in street play. This is how it sounds. The fourth gadget is called Shake Hands, also by Schlagwerk. It takes the form of a kind of glove that you put onto your hand, and you can attach a shaker to it very easily. Now this is again not audible by the microphone in the back, so you can use it mostly for street play. This is how it sounds. And last but not least, you have the cajón pad. Now, I can't imagine sitting on a cajón for a few hours without it. Seriously, it costs around €5. Buy it. Various manufacturers.